Hello everybody, it's me John and I'm back for another video. Today's video is again discussing about yet another anime series that I believe really needs to get either a continuation or a Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood sort of treatment, as in a rebooted series. Now, this is going to be a series of videos because there's quite a few anime series that I've seen over the years that have never got either a second series or the anime adaptations to the source material went off on a different tangent, and the full story never got fully or properly explained. Today's, as you can see by the title page, I'm gonna be talking about an anime series today that some people won't like it because of the nature of it. There is a big fan base out there for this title, especially when it came out. It was one of the highest. It was selling a lot of manga. A lot of the manga volumes and everything were selling really, really well at the time when it was coming out. And the anime adaptations that we got, they went down relatively quite well as well, in Japan as well as outside Japan. And that is, of course, Rosary Vampire. Rosary Vampire was created by Akihise Akida, based upon the manga Rosary Vampire of the same name, and we got 2 seasons of the anime. First season was from 2008, so from 2008 and I think 2009, within that brought back, is when these came out. So, Rosary Vampire is, well, it's an ecchi comedy that is sort of supernatural based because of the nature of it. It's based around a high school. All the characters are at school, but the difference with this is it follows a main character that is a human that transfers to a school that is for monsters. Somehow his parents managed to find, his parents managed to come across a piece of paper that got their son into high school, and it happened to be a school for monsters. And the whole story, with it being a comedy aspect, is him basically trying to survive the first semester, or trying to survive against being hunted down by a load of monsters that do not like humans, sorry. So a lot of humor in this. It's like I said, it's an ecchi comedy, so there's a lot of, yeah. I'm gonna be careful of how I say about that, because if you say too much on YouTube, you end up getting into trouble, or your video doesn't get traction, or you don't get monetized and all that kind of jazz. Even though I don't get monetized, but anyway, I will digress. But yeah, so Rosary Vampire is a series that I believe, even though it is an ecchi comedy, where there's a lot of prerogative things within it, as I will say there. But yeah, it's a good series because if you go by the manga source alone, again, the manga actually goes much more deeper into things, and it is still an ecchi comedy. There's still a lot of prerogative things within it, but yeah, it's not just about that. It's actually got a decent storyline, and the manga actually becomes much darker as the story goes on. The character development with the main character and all the other characters, it starts going down. It starts off quite light-hearted and a bit of a fun ride, but then as it progresses in the story form, it gets much darker, and then a big change happens to the main character, where he becomes no longer human and he becomes a monster himself, but yet he becomes a ghoul, and he then becomes an S rank monster, which is like the top monsters are the strongest, and he becomes really, really strong. And you don't see that at all, really, in the series. In the anime, we've got 2 seasons of Rosary Vampire. Apparently, season 2 isn't actually, it's loosely based on the manga, but it was quite a lot of it was original. They only went ahead and made the second series because there was want for it, basically. The season 1 was really popular, and apparently there was an outcry and a massive want for them to do a second series. So they decided to do a second series that was loosely based on the manga, but yet, because the source material was still being released at the time, they did kind of change things quite a lot. So it didn't properly follow the manga source, but yet it did serve as a continuation to season 1. So yeah, basically that's that. There's the anime series we got. Even though I do like I do like the anime series that we already have, the season 1, season 2. But yeah, it's such a shame that we never got to see Skune, the main character Skune. We never got to see him come into his own. The development around Skune is actually really, really, really good. As Skune is the main character of the story, and basically the whole idea is he falls in love with a girl called Mocha, and she's a vampire basically, and she's obviously an S rank. She's a very powerful monster. But the thing is, she has a split personality where basically there's the outer Mocha and there's the inner Mocha. And basically, the outer Mocha is just a sweet pink-haired girl who is really, really, really cute and innocent sort of thing. And then there's the inner Mocha, which the rosary around Mocha's chest acts as a seal. And for some reason Skune, the main character, he's the only one that has the ability to be able to remove it. So he basically accidentally removes it sometimes, and the inner Mocha then comes out, and you get her Mocha's basically Mocha becomes the true Mocha basically. Silver hair, and her features get much more enhanced, if you know what I mean, and all that kind of jazz. And basically, yeah, she becomes a badass vampire, and she fights monsters and this and the other. And then you've got a succubus character in it, who's one of Skune's class friends. And then you've got all these other characters that come into it that are supporting characters. And they all work off each other really, really well. I think the characters in this are actually quite good. But like I said, with the anime, there was much more focus on the humor over the story, and that's where the problem lies. There was much more focus on the humor side and the whole ecchi side of things. And because there was no third season, there was no continuation past season 2, we never got to see Skune really come into his own. We never got to see him come into his own, and we never got to see what happens with him and Mocha as relationship side and things like that. And we never got to see any of the really good fights and the enemies that they face, later on in the manga source. We never got to see that in the anime format. So it's a shame, because even though Rosary Vampire has a massive fan base, it was one of the most top, very popular anime titles at the time when it was coming out. The manga, like I said, it sold really well. There's a lot of support for Mocha as a character, because a lot of them really like the inner Mocha and outer Mocha. It's that dynamic, you don't really see that much that often in anime, especially not anime like Rosary Vampire, where it's mostly a comedy. But the fact that Mocha has this split personality disorder, split personality thing because of the Rosary, because she's so strong and so powerful, they have to put that seal is there for a purpose. But yet, for some reason, Skune is the only one that has the ability to be able to remove it, except for obviously her father and Roka's family. They're the only ones that can remove it as well. But Skune is the only one of the class friends or school friends that, has some reason, has the ability to remove it, which is kind of a mystery that doesn't get really explained at all in the anime. But yet, I believe it gets explained in the manga as to why he is able to remove it. And it's mostly because both the outer Mocha and the inner Mocha have feelings for Skune. It's like Mocha, all of Mocha basically all start to get feelings for him. Even the strong, badass inner Mocha, as well as the outside Mocha that everybody sees, the pink-haired one, so they both start to kind of get feelings for him, and I think that's probably what releases is able to, because of the feelings she has for Skune is the reason why he's got the ability to be able to remove it, because it's a different sort of feeling, not from like a threat or an enemy. It's not something that can be taken by force, because whoever tries to remove that, they have to know how to do it properly. But because Skune is a love interest of Mocha's, and Mocha obviously has feelings for him, very strong feelings for him, and they both have strong feelings for each other, and that's basically, it's kind of like true love's curse sort of fairy tale thing, like what you see in Disney films and things like that. It's kind of boring on that aspect where it's, true love conquers all sort of thing. I think that's kind of the method that they were going with that. But yeah, Rosary Vampire really does need a new anime series. Even though if you forget about the ecchi stuff, because a lot of fans, because there seems to be, obviously when it comes to anime, the whole sexy ecchi stuff, yes, I will agree, even me, somebody that does like a little bit of the sexy ecchi stuff from time to time, it can get a bit much sometimes. It can get a bit much, and it can overbear the story, because there's too much focus on the prerogative stuff, and it takes your focus away from what's going on with the story. But I believe if they did Rosary Vampire properly, and they actually adapted the manga source much more closely, and so they actually did a much more of a truer adaptation to the manga in anime format. If they actually did that, people would start to realise it's not just about the ecchi side of it. It starts off that way, but yet as the story progresses and the whole arc with Skune, him being a human, him no longer being human, and then him steadily changing into this ghoul character and becoming a ghoul, and this kind of thing, and the whole dynamic with Mocha and inner Mocha, their relationship between Mocha and Skune, and then there's also kind of a love triangle thing going around. All the girls that Skune becomes friends with at the school, they start to get feelings for him. So it's kind of this weird dynamic, and even though there's all that going on, but yet it has a really pretty decent storyline. That gets pretty dark as you continue on, as you read the manga. So again, it's a series where the manga is better than the anime. The manga is really, really good, and obviously the manga's completely finished. It's been finished for a long time. So all the source material's ready to go to be adapted, but yet nobody nobody's come forward and said anything about some kind of continuation. I don't think there'll be. Well, the thing is, they could technically make. They could technically get away with making a third season of Rosary Vampire, of what's already out. But yet, it differs way too much to the source material from what we've already got so far in anime form. It differs quite a lot, so it would be difficult to try and piece things together to make it make sense. So the only way to go is to basically start from scratch and just go from season 1 and just go through it as the manga, as it does in the manga, and then we finally see the change within the characters. We finally start to get this development happen. It starts to get a much darker tone, and then we start to see the change with Skune, the whole thing with him, and then the whole relationship thing with Mocha. But then there's a lot more to it. There's like other enemies, that come into it that Skune and Mocha have to fight, and things of that nature. All these really cool threats that he has to fight. There's also basically Mocha's father. He's basically Dracula. He's based on Dracula, the prince of vampires, basically, or whatever you want, or whatever. And he basically, Skune has to fight him at one point in order to get approval of him basically going out with his daughter. So basically, there's actually a really good fight between him and Mocha's father at some point. But again, season 2 of Rosary Vampire, within season 2, at the very end of season 2 of Rosary Vampire, the anime, you do get there is a meeting between Skune and Mocha's father, but yet he loses that fight really easily, of course. But yeah, there's more to that, and the story does continue past that. And I would really like to see Skune finally transform into the ghoul and him becoming this badass, really strong character. And that's something you don't see, because Skune is it's pretty pathetic in the anime. He starts off as this really, he starts off as a complete recluse, basically. Doesn't have any friends. And obviously he's having to go to this school that happens to be a school for monsters, and he's human at that point. And basically all the girls who are obviously monsters, all the girls are basically fighting the fight for him, and he's unable to really do anything. And so he's basically a useless character at the beginning, but then as it pans out and then he becomes a ghoul, changes into a ghoul, he becomes just as badass as Mocha, and they're basically able to go toe to toe with each other in order to go against threats and fights and enemies. And it becomes a much more of a better watch, because it's good to see a character, someone that wasn't very confident, become much more confident within themselves, and totally different dynamic between as with Skune as a character. And that's what I would love to see in anime format. I would love to see that adapted and actually, the story properly told in anime format. Well, there we are. Thank you very much for watching. This has been my video talking about Rosary Vampire, and I would love to see them continue it, or a brand new rebooted series. So yeah, let me know. Would you like to see Rosary Vampire, the manga, get properly adapted? Like, what actually happens from start to finish? Is there any changes you would like to see within the anime adaptation from the manga? Is there something you wasn't happy with in the manga that you'd like to see get changed within the adaptation, if they ever did it? Let me know in the comments. But thank you. Take care. Bye bye.